Factorio. Yes, it's the game where you build a factory, but it's also so much more than that. Factorio itself is art. On the surface level, it seems straightforward, but when you start playing, you realize that what seems like a few minutes of playtime turn into a few hours. It becomes a motley of belt after belt, inserter after inserter, all the while the natives get stronger and stronger and more hell-bent on bringing your factory to ruin. But after my 500 hours in the game, I realized something else. It's too easy. I need a challenge after doing the same old thing for so long, so I looked to mods to butter it up a little bit. That's when I found Pyanodons mods. It adds thousands of new features to the game, including but not limited to new alien life, nuclear fusion, more than a dozen new ores, and a ton of other things I can't wait to dip my toes into, so let's get started. Also, just a disclaimer, due to the already incredible difficulty of this mod, I've decided to omit biters and pollution entirely. It would just be way too much of a hassle if I had to worry about those and the hundreds of other things going on. The game starts like any other Factorio playthrough. Alright, we're here. That is until you look at the map to be greeted by the RGB assortment of ores. You also get a few stacks of iron and copper from the ship after you gracefully land. I forgot to record the first 5 minutes or so, but it's just what you'd expect. I set up some basic burner mining drills to get work on the iron and copper production. However, Mr. Pyanodon decided to make it extra tedious and made plates require 8 times the ore. Everything is extremely expensive. I also set up the first new building the mod adds, a soil extractor. It was fairly cheap, and as the name implies, its main purpose is to extract soil. All it needs is some water and some electricity, and it starts working away. Speaking of electricity, I made a basic steam generator setup, which is more than sufficient. That makes a lot, so we'll be good for a little while. I then crafted the new lab added by the mod, which replaces the old one. It looks a little different. It's beautiful. It looks like... I don't even know what it looks like. I started looking into the recipe for red science, which looks way different now as well, and has a very different recipe. It takes small parts, basically a conglomerate of a bunch of intermediate materials such as bolts, copper wire, and gears. Native fauna, and a planter box. The native fauna spawns like an ore and requires a collector, which is extremely expensive, so I had to wait for some plates to smelt. It's 163 iron plates, 93 copper plates, and 20 stone. After a solid 3 millennia, I finally had enough and I crafted it, only to realize it would take another 2 minutes because I only had the raw materials. Oh man. All the while, I had to manually refuel everything with raw coal. I began to fear I wouldn't have enough, so I set up an elaborate coal mining doohickey that automatically refueled itself with the coal it mined. To this point, I've neglected to mention that when any burnable fuel is consumed, it leaves ash behind. This is a huge pain because it means that every once in a while I had to take it all out to avoid the machine from deadlocking. Anyways, I made a belt that brought the new supply of coal down to the boiler so I wouldn't have to bring any down there myself anymore. It took like 10 years of each time I had to go back and forth from the furnaces, plus the amount of time it took to actually craft the stuff. This pattern becomes a huge theme throughout my time with this mod. The previously mentioned planter boxes take wood, stone brick, and iron to craft. I already had the iron and all I needed was the wood and stone, but unsurprisingly, stone mining isn't as simple as in vanilla. It also outputs kerogen, which can be used as a fuel source. So I set up a stone brick smelter that uses kerogen as the fuel, meaning I didn't have to fuel it myself. Wood is also more annoying as the trees drop logs that need to be further crafted into wood. Then those planter boxes need to be combined with soil and ash, both of which I already had. Now that I had a decent dish supply of materials, I began looking to make some science packs so that I could do the first step in automating a base. Researching automation. However, if I wanted better iron production, I would need to make a furnace stack, which requires a secondary belt of coal, but with splitters out of reach, I had to get a little creative. So this will turn one line into 2 lines. That's how I'll do it. Then I got a little curious about how many technologies there really were, and let me just scroll down real quick.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, heck.
Hell no, man. What the
heck.
Man.
I placed down the collector and it started going, and I brought my total lab count to 4. I manually crafted half the science packs I needed for automation and put them in. At last, I was getting somewhere. I'd wait another few minutes, but finally I had all the science I needed, and automation was complete. Hey. Alright, I'm gonna take a break for a little while. And so I did, but when I got back on the next day, I was ready. Immediately, I began working on another coal mining thingamajig to be used for my furnace stacks. I would have to use this proto-splitter that I designed before. I made a blueprint for how I wanted the mining drills to be set up. There would be an output belt on the output side of the miners, while a coal belt will run on the other side to give them coal. I would have 2 just like that, and their belts would intersect to make a full belt of ore. Now we enter one of the most tedious parts of the mod, where you collect raw plates, build blueprints, and slowly craft the items you need. I finished the coal drills and most of the belt, but I still had a ways to go. I also finished up the proto-splitter, but I didn't think it could keep up. The inserters moved at a snail's pace and the belt took forever to be supplied. I just decided to let it do its thing and only make more if I have to. Oh my, the speed on these. In around 20 minutes, yes it took that long, side number 1 was complete. Now it was time to start work on side number 2 and hopefully it would be quicker. After taking too long though, I set up another set of furnaces to smelt more iron. Even with that, however, it took another 10 minutes before it was complete. Boom. I need 2 more. And there we go. I set up the blueprint for the copper mine and also put some furnaces on the new iron line. This effectively halved the number of things I needed to fuel, which I was very excited about. I was finally free from refueling miners every couple of minutes. I finished the copper mining drills and I painstakingly brought up the coal. It took a long time for the coal to finally reach them and get backed up on the belt as a result of using those godforsaken proto-splitters. When it finally did, I started another belt that would lead directly to the line of ore for the iron furnace stack. Once again, it took forever, but when it was done, I was over the moon.
Okay, not a bad move. Pinning the knight to the king. Now black.
I added another furnace stack above the iron one, which will be used for copper, and blueprinted another belt for the coal to go. I then started work on the belts to actually remove the iron, but then I realized that the inserters were also removing ash from the furnace's inventories. I had no other ideas for removing the ash without going insane, so I just put some inserters at the end to filter it out. Without a splitter, it's the best option I have. The inserters couldn't keep up with the amount of ore coming in, so I had to double the amount. Alright, we're gonna need 8 more inserters. Yeah, see, this is gonna be a big problem. At times like these, I wish there weren't so many intermediate recipes for stuff. I finally started work on the copper furnace stack, and with the new iron stack it went way faster. The belts aren't nearly as bad as the inserters though. I was done within only a couple minutes and got to watch the first bit of copper roll in. I had to set up another ash filter for the copper stack, which wasn't too hard, but I was sick of crafting every material by hand. The worst ones were the small parts and the air core inductors. They both just need iron and copper and about 1 billion intermediate materials. Without splitters, it was almost impossible to make a functional main bus, so I decided to make a mini hand-fed factory of everything I need. It turns out the assemblers need coal, so I put the factory right by my coal lines to automatically pull from. I needed machines for copper wire, iron sticks, bolts, and gears for the small parts and the air core inductors. I wanted each inserter to do something else for maximum efficiency, but it took a long time to figure out the filters. For some reason, if they're set to whitelist with nothing in the slot, they won't insert anything. Not sure why that's a feature, but whatever. After even more fidgeting with the inserters, it was finally complete, and I had myself a semi-decent factory for the 2 biggest pains when it came to crafting. I then remembered that science was a thing in this game, and I got to work brainstorming how I would automate science packs. We need the native flora and small parts. Alright, so it's just literally this. I took my labs from the soil extractor and put them next to the new science doodad. Now I just needed to craft the buildings. Make some quick... Oh, that felt so good. Oh, that was nice. Oh! Yes, yes. This was a good idea. And then the science maker was complete. However, after seeing that I only made one every 5 seconds, I made another assembler at the end. Then I built the conveyor and I had officially kinda automated science. Alright, there we go. And with that, I called my time in the mod to an end for now. In all, it took me around 2.5 hours, and honestly, I'm surprised I managed to shrink it down to this time. If you want to see more of this mod, please tell me, because despite the amount of pain I went through, I had fun in the end. Well, see ya. Also, if you made it this far, comment, Pyanodon, more like Pteranodon.